So what if I told you that everything you do, every single day, is actually an act of selling? I'm not just talking about if you're a salesperson. I mean every single part of your life. Today, we're jumping into the pretty high-stakes world of Grant Cardone's Sell or Be Sold, a book that makes the case that selling isn't just a job, it's the absolute key to survival.
Just think about your own life for a minute. You probably don't have sales in your job title, right? But have you ever tried to get a raise? Or convince your kids to eat their vegetables? Or even just argued with friends about where to go for dinner? Yep, every single one of those is a sale. In every one of those moments, what you're really doing is trying to influence someone, or persuade them, or negotiate. You're selling an idea, a point of view, a plan of action. And here's the kicker. If you're not the one selling, you can bet the person you're talking to probably is. Okay, let's really unpack this, because this is the absolute heart of the matter. Cardone is basically saying there's no middle ground. Life is just one long negotiation, and in every single one of these exchanges, somebody wins. The stakes? They really couldn't be higher.
So this leads us to a fundamental choice, one that we all have to make whether we realize it or not.
We're not just talking about getting a promotion or making more money here. Cardone frames this as absolutely essential for survival. Your ability to get other people to see things your way, to back your ideas, to buy into your vision, that is what's going to determine the quality of your entire life. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. There are two states of being. On one side, you have the active state. You sell. You influence, you persuade, you negotiate, and you win. And on the other side, the passive state. You are sold. You're left pleading, hoping, and wishing, which, let's be honest, means you lose. There is no in-between here.
Okay, so if this is such a critical, life-or-death kind of skill, why do so many of us have such a gut-negative reaction to the whole idea of selling?
It's a fair question, right? We immediately think of some pushy used car salesman or an annoying telemarketer. We connect selling with rejection and being manipulative, and we just want nothing to do with it. But turns out that's not the real reason we avoid it.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. The problem isn't that we're afraid of rejection. The book argues that we dislike selling for one simple reason. We don't really understand how it works. And when you don't understand something, you have no control over it.
You know, think about trying to drive a car for the very first time with no instruction. It's terrifying. Why? Because you're not in control. Selling is exactly the same. The dislike doesn't come from the act itself. It comes from that feeling of powerlessness when you don't know what you're doing.
All right, so how do we get that control back? Well, it all starts with a huge internal shift. Let's talk about the conviction principle.
The very first step to selling anything, whether it's an idea, a product, or even yourself, is that you have to be 100% sold on it first. I'm not talking 99%. If you have even a tiny shred of doubt in your own mind, that uncertainty is going to transfer straight to the other person. You have got to be all in.
So how do you actually do that? Well, first, you've got to sell yourself on your idea until you have zero doubts. Second, you have to genuinely believe that what you're offering is the absolute best solution out there. And third, you need to know its value so inside and out that you can explain it without even a second's hesitation. That right there is the foundation of power in any exchange.
Now, once you have that deep conviction, you can finally tackle the single biggest myth in the entire world of sales.
Oof, this one can be a tough pill to swallow, but it's so important. People don't object to the price, they object when they don't see the value. If you believe your price is too high, there is no way you will ever convince someone else to pay it. The problem isn't the number on the tag, it's your own lack of conviction in what that number represents.
So Cardone actually put this whole theory to the test. In Detroit, which was usually a great market for his seminars, he offered tickets at this massive discount. We're talking just 1/10 of the regular price. The thinking was simple. A cheaper price should mean a sold-out event, right? But look what happened. It was the worst attended seminar he'd had in 20 years. The super low price didn't create a rush of people. It actually destroyed demand.
So what's the big takeaway here? A low price is completely worthless if you don't have someone there to build confidence and actually communicate the value. In fact, a price that's too low can just make people suspicious. Value isn't in the price tag. It's created and communicated by a salesperson who is totally convinced.
All of this brings us to one final, incredibly powerful conclusion.
The outcome of any interaction rests entirely on your shoulders. It is not the customer's job to buy something from you. It is your job to sell it to them. Shifting your mindset to this is about taking complete and total ownership of the outcome every single time.
Look, when it all boils down, it's this simple. When you don't get your way, you have two choices. You can blame the other person, or the economy, or the price, and you'll always be the victim. Or you can take full responsibility, figure out what you did wrong, and make sure you win the next time. That is the ultimate form of control. And that's really the question this whole idea leaves us with, isn't it? In your job, in your relationships, in your life, are you the one shaping the outcome, or are you the one being shaped? Because one thing is for sure, a transaction is always taking place.